Okay, hello everyone, and tonight we will have an 76th metaPhorest seminar by our member Anais Karenin, and her title is Dialogues, Plants, Biot, and Animism, and we had previously her book, if I remember correctly, 1.5 years ago or so, and she already shared us with her background, somehow incorporating it in with the plant knowledge and the scientific knowledge, and also some traditional and historical backgrounds about her Brazilian backgrounds, and which is related with some post-colonialism topic or something like that. So it's very, it's covered a lot of disciplines, ranging from art, aesthetics, and humanities studies, and especially anthropology, post-colonial issues, and some historical narratives, and so on. And it's really exciting and interesting, the combination, and in a very I can say unique ways. And so I think we can learn a lot from her too. And also, she is now living in Japan for some years, and she is of course an artist, but also a researcher belonging to the Waseda University Graduate School of Anthropology Department, and so also the bridging the art and academic studies. And it's also a very interesting point, and which can be a reference to our platform studies exploration, and also yeah, and so I think we can enjoy a lot from her. But as it's very diverse, and sometimes it's very new to us. For example, the narratives in the ancient South American narratives or something like that is very new, and we are not familiar with. So I think that everyone is very easy to carry up the story. So we recommend you to interrupt and raise your hand, and easily ask questions to her, and even during the talk. Is that okay? So ということ、so in Japanese, ということで、今日はブラジル出身のアナイス・カレニンさんにお話しいただきますと。で、ちょっと一部でシェアしてますけれども、とてもユニークなキャリアを持っているアーティストさんで、今現在、早稲田大学の人類学の、文化構想学部になるか、違うか、国際教養、文化構想、どっちかの、すいません。大学院の、博士課程の、学生さんというか研究者でもあって、人類学、特に人類学的にその、2つの、その彼女の出身の、南米の、アマゾンを、開拓していったという、そのなんか植民地政策に関わるよう、植民地に関わるような、非常に複雑な歴史があり、そこで、先住民の知恵みたいな話もあって、それが文明化していくときにどういうことが起きたのかっていうようなトピックってすごい重要なんですけど、そういったこと、特にそれ、植物の利用みたいな知恵がどういうふうに変化してきたのかとか、っていう話と、あとは日本に、現在いるので、その日本における同じような ナラティブみたいな人類学的なナラティブとか、歴史とか地域性とか風土みたいなものを日本で探求するっていうのを比較したりとか、影響して、研究及び作品を展開しているというすごくユニークな活動をしていらっしゃるので、なので話も結構多岐にわたるので、日本語でもいいので、ちょっとわからなくついていけなくなったら、気軽にできるだけ質問するようにしてくださいという感じです。できれば、口頭で質問していただいてもいいんですけど、チャットを結構使っていただくと、外国人の方もいらっしゃるので、おそらく外国人の方も多分自動翻訳とかで見たりとかできると思うので、チャットで質問を書いていただく、随時書いていただけるとありがたいと思います。Sorry, in Japanese, so go back to English. And please feel free to write down your questions in English or Japanese regardless of that. On chat, or please raise your hands even during the talk. So, Anais, thank you very much for giving the talk again. Please.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity to be here talking again. And as Hideo said, you can interrupt me if I talk too fast or some terms that you cannot understand, especially regarding Brazilian culture or specificities. You can interrupt me in the middle, so the conversation can be longer or smaller depending on this also. So I'm super open. So I will start. I have a presentation, but I will start with one image that was not exactly my plan to share tonight. But just briefly, I would like to share with you this image of the northern area of Brazil. It's northeast area of Brazil. It's a place called a state called Ceará. That is where my family comes from. And this kind of dry regions we call sertão. So this kind of region is almost half of the year, more than half of the year is pretty dry, and you don't have much rain. And then in certain periods in the year, it rains a lot. And it's interesting because you can see in these dry areas, some house where there is a boat besides, because sometimes it rains so much that these areas become kind of rivers. So just to bring a different kind of background of idea of what is the northeast area of Brazil, because Brazil is a huge country and with so many specificities and cultural and landscape specificities. And the most idea we have from north area of Brazil is the idea of Amazon and the indigenous people from Amazon. There is a rainforest, is a green land, and specific relation with the rivers. But most of my relation with indigenous mythologies and relations to land is more connected with this kind of dry land. There is this sertão that I call. And for me, it's interesting, as you see, during my explanation, from this, it comes many of my understandings of the relation with minerals and other understandings of what is nature from this sort of background. So just brief image to illustrate a little bit. So then I will share again what is planned to be shown tonight. So, okay, starting again. Just organize this layout a little here. Okay. So dialogues between plants by art and animism is what I want to share tonight. So sorry, it's not changing. Okay. So as I said, like my background is mostly related to this kind of ancestry, in which I've been relating a lot with the plants as some source of ancestry, like material ancestry and historical ancestry, also related to my my family that come from these dry lands, my family that was they was farmers also in this land. So from father and mother, they was farmers, and from father's part is like there's the origin of Mashakali indigenous people that is also from like dry area, more like not in Northeast, but like in Minas Gerais. So it's like division between Minas Gerais and Bahia. Maybe you don't know these states, but just if someone knows, like you have the names, but it's like more like starting the north area. So you also have some sort of dry lands around there. So like mother and father from different place, but both from these specific dry areas in Brazil. And then, sorry for this annoying sound. Also, I want to start like with this image that like is really recently a new artwork that I've been developing that is with photographies that comes from the main methodology technique that I've been using in my last artworks, that is related to this process where I transform the plants into transparency beings, and there's many meanings behind this methodology that are created. So tonight I'm focusing on sharing this kind of methodology and how it was used in different artworks and the different meanings that I've been researching on this. And here I want to express one of these first layers of my contact with plants that is related to the idea of spiritual, the idea of the spiritual layers of plants and the spiritual existence of plants. Which the starting point was the relation with medicinal herbs, so with the healing properties of medicinal herbs. So I started this research when I was 14 years old. So relating with this ancestral knowledge of my family. So starting to try to restore this connection with this knowledge about medicinal plants. So in Brazil, we have a specific tradition that's like more popular. It's not exactly only indigenous. It's popular, so it comes from indigenous, it comes from communities of like people that was like from slaves and then become like these small communities that we call quilombolas. So from this many original knowledge, we developed like these communities which share and communicate like in groups this knowledge about the herbs. So it's not related to a specific culture. It's not like there's not a specific religious background or spiritual background. It's completely diverse, and there's mostly groups of women and like old women that share like this knowledge that they learned from their grandmothers and the grandmothers of the grandmothers and their grandmother of the grandmothers. Like so many generations sharing this knowledge, and then they get together and share this knowledge as a kind of source of resistance. So it's also important because it's small communities from countryside or from poor areas where you don't have the perfect access to governmental health support, for example. So then they develop their own way of taking care of their own bodies, of their healthy. And also it is related to not just not having access, but having some kind of critics regarding the using of medicines, and there is like the idea of like the problem of the pharmaceutical industry. So using some source of like using directly the plants to doing the medicines in a more natural way to heal. And from this, something that is most important is the idea of like kinship and storytelling. So we have many mythologies that comes from these relations that each person's develop with the plants. So we have a lot of intuition. So the persons just enter in the forest and develop, like they identify the plants, so it's really beautiful and complex way of relating to this knowledge that interestingly can be understood also as a scientific knowledge, because most of the plants that are used from these women, they are plants that are recognized by pharmaceutical industry. They are used, and they are like this popular and traditional knowledge. They are like a source of production of medicines in science in Brazil, and like since colonial period. So I will talk about this a little more later. So this is like the starting point of my background and why I started to work in this way with plants. So let's go to one artwork that can illustrate this a little bit, and then I will talk a little more about this more conceptual and this background. As Hideo said, like sometimes it's difficult to understand and to catch up, like this specific context. So this artwork, it's from this year, so it's called Borderless Matter. And there is like this combination of the plants, and beside of the plant you have the color of the plant. So like here you have the plant with the color extracted, and besides like you have the color. So this color is the medicinal substance of the plant. And in this artwork, they are evaporating. So this is the tubes are open, and the substance evaporates during the exhibition. So like when you are around the artwork, you breathe like this like healing air, like mixed in there. So like it's kind of it's a proposition of like understanding like how plants can be borderless, and like how it's important to understand them like beyond the category of plant, and let them enter our bodies, and like not like just as a healing experience of like entering the body of the substance, but more in a sense of like being less human. So being like interrupted, like have your body like interwoven with the substance. So this is how I understand the powerful relations with medicinal plants, because once you have your like you let your body like to drink and to use the substance, I consider that this substance is using us. So like it's changing our body, it's changing our perception. So in more like source of ritual, like you have more ritualistic process, like in Brazil, in many indigenous cultures, that they use the plants as a source of like open like layers of spiritual layers. But I think like this not exist only in these specific rituals. The relation with plants itself is some sort of like open doors of rationality, and like open the body, open the perception. So this is like my proposition of my artwork, this kind of radical understanding of how much it's possible to change our human-centered experience through the plants, the potency of the substance of the plants entering us. So this is like the tail image of the artwork. So like you can see like the different colors of the substance. And interesting thing is like the color of the substance is not exactly the color of the plant itself. So it doesn't mean that the leaf was this color. The leaf sometimes is like completely different colors. Like sometimes it's a red leaf and the substance is green. Sometimes it's a green leaf and the substance is red. So it's not exactly the relation of the color of the leaf itself. It's more the color of what have inside of the plant. And then like, as you can see, like some lines here, it was where the substance was before in the beginning of the exhibition. And then it's evaporating more and more and like reducing more and more. So it becomes like part of the air.
So sorry, the solvent always the ethanol or?
Sorry, my volume was so so high.
What is actually the actual solvent of the? Is that usually the alcohol?
It's not alcohol. Like there is some alcoholic substance, like for example, in the leaf. To preserve the transparent leaf, it's alcoholic, and also like in the substance to evaporate, you have some alcoholic like levels, but it's also mixed with other like elements from like this traditional recipes that we have. But like this is also interesting thing like in my artwork, because as I want to preserve this background, something that is important on the way of learning how to do these medicines is that you don't have a recipe like that someone will give to you. It's kind of like there is kind of mystery and secrets in this way of like preserving this knowledge. So because of this, also I don't share like all the process on how I do the medicines, because like this kind of, so it's interesting also because I use these tubes that like it's scientific tubes. So like also like you can reach this kind of medicinal substance in only scientific methodology, but the tubes are open exactly because I'm making some kind of in-betweenness of this relation, because it's scientific methodology, but at the same time it's so like full of this tradition. So there's something that you cannot tell, like there's this mysterious that is also related to the storytelling of the artwork. So this secrecy, it's important to maintain. So but yeah, there is alcoholic substance also within the final result of the artwork.
I see. Thank you.
So like here, for example, there is like a mixing of many plants, many substances together. So with like other like solvents. And this is like participating in a cycle. And this cycle of water, it's like kind of hydrating these plants here. So I will explain a little more, because like this artwork, it's like in between is completely, because part of the artwork is like my solo work, and the other part become half of the work become a collaboration with Shiori Watanabe. Maybe many of you knows her artwork, that she worked like with the systems. So we did like this research about the river that is crossing the art space, like it's close to the art space that was Arakawa River. So I went to mountainous side of Arakawa River. So I identified some plants in there, medicinal ones, and collected them. And also brought the water of the river. So the water of the river is here, and is participating on this cleaning process of that Shiori commonly use. And it's mixing with this substance that I use. So I use like a peristaltic pump. So it's not the aquarium pump that normally it's used here. It's more the peristaltic. So like the movement of the water is like really slow, like little by little. It comes here. So the water of the river mixed with the water of the substance, the healing substance, and then it comes to the plant again. So this is a kind of circulating system that goes to the plant again. So the water of the river goes to the plant again. So this is like the intention of like the circuit of the artwork. And then like when it becomes a collaboration, it's called non-specific relation. So like here you have borderless matter and then non-specific relations, and the names of the titles of the work also they cross like themselves, the idea of non-border of the artwork itself that is mixed with other collaboration. So collaborations are super important for me. As you see, like I think most of the artworks that we share here, they are collaborations. And I start to work maybe 3 years ago, I started to do mostly collaborations, because I've been thinking a lot on the idea of like how many artists are thinking recently on the idea of collaborating with plants, collaborating with fungi, collaborating with bacteria. So like these non-human collaborations. But I started to think how much for me was important also collaborating with humans, because I never know the ethics of the relation with collaborating with a non-human. So for me, like collaborating with another human is like a way for me to try to cross a little my individuality border. So it's more easy to be under control, under human control, when it's just one human making all the decisions by itself. But when you have other collaborations, like I think the things can move in another way, and like the controlledness like can change a little bit. So it's not a perfect strategy, but like it's the strategy that I think reach a little more closer to the idea of like trying to cross this individual border of the idea of like the artist as the creator. So that is historically like in art something really strong. So I've been thinking, so how to cross the idea of individual in the art with the identity of the artist, doing some sort of collaborations, not only with artists, but with musicians and scientists and so on. And then like we enter in this other moment that I'm thinking like these two topics, bioart and animism, in my presentation today. So why bioart also like is something that I also always think, why call my practice bioarts and how it's related, like how my practice is related to the other bioart practice and to science itself. So something that is related to the idea of bio is the idea of life, right? So it's like where it comes from. And something that is been crossing my artworks since a long time is like questioning what is the concept of life. And it started like in a group studies in Brazil that was with scientists and artists. And we was discussing like this, basically like something about solar system, and then like something that okay, the sun is not life, and like it tricks me, you know, like okay, like we know like from the conception of science, like basic conception of what is life, something that is born and reproduce and die. We cannot understand if the sun is on this category or not, because we don't know when it was born. We don't know if it is reproducing, and we don't know if it is die. So I start to think like how much is tricky, like the source of life that we have in the earth is not considered life. So it started to be like always in my mind, okay, what is life? What is not life? And then I found this super interesting author, that is Elizabeth Povinelli. And also she questions not just what is life, but also she questions what is animism, and if animism is enough to reply the idea of the the perception of indigenous people regarding other existence, other beings. So like Elizabeth Povinelli, she works a lot with a group in Australia that is called Kahabing. And the Kahabings, they have a really interesting relation with stones. So Elizabeth identified that like just saying that Kahabing have animistic relationship with stones was not enough. So she started to question how much the problem of the biopower, it was related to how much, from scientific perspective, life is divided, like existence, everything is divided in being alive or not being alive. And the rocks, for example, the stones, for example, are not part of this. So she talks about the carbon cycle and how much like our society is based on the idea of this carbon cycle. And like it's super complex, like I'm not entering so deeply on this concept of like geontologies that Elizabeth Povinelli brings, but I really suggest as a lecture, as a book, interesting like to read. So this is how I started to do bioarts. Like this question was what brought me to consider like my work as bioarts. So it's what intrigues me in being related to the science methodologies is questioning like the history of science and like how things started to be considered science. So it's also a question about knowledge and methodology and so on. Let's see, we have some questions on the chat, but I cannot open it. It's okay. Any questions for now or not? I cannot read.
For this moment, it's likely okay. Thank you.
Okay. So, like this is also an artwork in collaboration with a Brazilian artist that lives in Berlin, Silvia Noronha. She works a lot with minerals as well, and with clay and other elements. And this collaboration is related to this idea of like how to crossing this border between the definition of what is life and what is not life, and how like from this conception, for example, plants would not be considered in the same existence as the stones are. So then like we used like this methodology that I developed that we saw in the other artwork of the extraction of the color of the plant, and the substance is here. So what is happening in this artwork? The substance is being absorbed by crystals, like salt crystals in a stone. And then the stone is becoming green. So the idea in this artwork is question these borders and how much there is some sort of ancestral and material and immaterial relation between like plants and stones that we can understand like in many ways, except like especially because plants depend on minerals on the soil to exist. So like this limit is not so clear like on how like the elements relate to themselves. And then like in this artwork, we try to relate a little like, so something that is really common in my artwork is cross kind of stretch the concepts of science in a way that it starts sometime at some point become fictions, or not exactly just fiction, but some sort of speculation, some sort of another proposition of understanding some elements. So this like different source of knowledge are also something that always appears in my artwork. So like this is the proposition of the artwork in here. And then also this kind of methodology can be seen in this artwork, that it is a solo artwork because what I did like during a residency. Also this year in Miyagi, so it was Zao Expo in Togata residency. So I installed this artwork in the middle of the forest, and there is like two parts of the artwork. So to enter the artwork, you need to walk in the forest. You need to enter the forest and walk in this space. And it's related to a research on the Zao volcano. So the residency like is located right here. So it's really like close to like the Okama crater in Zao. So like by car it's like 10 to 15 minutes, like, and you can do hiking. Like here is also the starting point of many hikings to go up to the mountain. So I started to research about the spread of the like the ash of the volcano around this area, and I started to, like, maybe some of you know, like, but the ash and the eruption of the volcanoes is really important to the diversity of plants and minerals around. So how much, like, as much the volcano like explodes, like the plants can like be with the ash, the plants can like restore themselves. So this sort of competition that they need to like effort that they need to do like to grow again, it maintains the diversity, like that grows and grows and grows along the time, like with more and more eruptions. So also this was like intriguing me about this relation, like more intimate relation that plants and minerals establish with themselves. And this artwork is like some sort of way of investigating and thinking about it. I think on this artwork, not like exactly as the final art piece itself, because it was 3 weeks residency. So like 2 weeks researching and just 1 week to decide and get all the materials and do the artwork. And so to be like, it was super short residency. So I felt like glad that I could do some final product out of this, like during this process. And it was interesting because I could investigate like something that was really interested in that time, that was this systems with peristaltic pump. That is the one that you saw also in the other artwork that was made late. It was after this one. So like here you have also the plants like evaporating and going back to the atmosphere. These plants, plants identified, like it was 50 different species of plants that I could identify around this mountain area. I could not collect them in the really close to the mountain because it's prohibited. So like around like Togata and the other areas that is permitted, I studied like these plants and collected them. And then like in this system, you have like the water of the onsen water circulating and mixing with this medicinal plant water. This is like a mixing with just poison plants that are like healing to the soil, not to humans. So in this like system, the elements get together and then go to the soil. So what you have here is like I collected some stones from the river. So they are igneous and metamorphic stones. So there was like this color, or like this gray color. And then I brought them to the onsen area, where the onsen, like there is like a place where the water of the onsen was going out during all the time, because it's like the exceeding water of the pump. And this exceeding water like is so rich in minerals that the rocks change the color to this reddish, like oranges, like color of the rocks. And here also there is some plants that I collected, like plant leaves, and they become some sort of rocks, some sort of green stones. They are really, really hard. You cannot break this like with your hands. It's really difficult to break. So I started this research that I unfortunately did not have much time to continue like with many results. But it's like a working ongoing project, and I want to go back there and research more like these relationships on how much the elements change themselves and show like this interaction that is not so restricted, but there is like a long relation of interaction there. So the narratives behind this artwork is some sort of like scientific studies that I made from articles that people from people that like went to zoo and are doing like research for long years, mixed with like some narratives of the people that lives in Togata. So their perception is sometimes overlap and is different from what the article says, for example, but they are like daily life living there and interacting. So I started to like try to mix this kind of narratives and how like this popular and daily life relations connects or are different from like the scientific studies and so on. So this is how that is like what is behind this perception of the artwork as well, and the process of transformation and interdependency of the elements. So my interest on thinking about these relations with plants and narratives and science is thinking about the knowledge systems and the hierarchy that exists within them. So this technique that I've been using a lot with the extraction of the color of the plant, it started with an artwork that I'm talking about some relations between history of science and colonialism. And that is super specific also from South America history. The colonial issues in South America are huge. So this, in fact, is a GIF that I could not transform in a GIF. It's not working, so I try to see if I can share with you the GIF itself. Can you see the GIF or not? You're seeing the same screen. Are you seeing the same screen or?
We see an image.
Changing the color or not?
No, just a static image, at least for me.
Okay. Yeah, it's not this one. So I will start again the sharing to change the screen to share. So yeah, this one. So yeah, the color is changing. Okay, great. So this is an artwork for 2020 that is called Forest. And this image is called Forest, like Virgin Forest of John Moritz Hugendas, that was a naturalist that made a lot of the engravings representing tropical nature in this colonial period. So these representations of nature during colonial period in Brazil and many other tropical countries was super significant to the process of developing the narratives and discourse of the colonialism. So I will interrupt and go back again. So this artwork started this way. So this methodology of extracting the color of the plant started this way. So it's pretty like it's the methodology, as you can see, like it's pretty similar, but the result is completely different, and the narratives behind also it's completely different. So these plants where like which are extracted the color is identified, and like it's used to tint these engravings in different colors. So this relation with the change in color of an engraving that is originally black and white is to making some kind of repeat what happened during the colonial period. So what happened during the reproduction of these engravings, that is basically putting an outside meaning of something that exists. So when I'm changing the color of this engraving, I'm bringing this, I'm making this intervention on the meaning of the engraving. I'm changing the result of the engraving. I'm changing what the engraving is itself. So this is what this kind of narratives made in Brazil during this period. So that like many of this research is based on this book from Nancy Stephen that's picturing tropical nature. So she talks a lot about many paintings and engravings that was developed during the history of the naturalism in Brazil, and how through the time it developed this concept of tropicalism, and how much the racial system was also related to the idea of the tropics. So with the idea of the native and primitive lands, where you have these indigenous and like primitive people that are so interesting and you're curious about. So like it's how it started this relation of power between Europe and Brazil. And something that was completely transformed during this time was specifically the cosmovisions of people that lived in the country before. So the idea of like the working being called forest, like floresta in Portuguese is the same of forest, is like because like etymologically, like forest mean like outer forest. Like it designated like the lands on medieval lands that was like prohibitive for other peoples to enter. It was like the royal lands where you have like the palms and like everything. And it's completely opposite of the relation with native people in Brazil, the relation they had with nature like during this time, because they lived inside of the forest, within the forest. There was not this idea of exteriority. So there's not the perception of something that is divided, that is not part of you. There's not this identification of species, of like, so the idea like many like indigenous peoples in Brazil, they have this sort of kinship with plants and trees. They have more kinship sometimes with some plants than with other human beings, because it's how they developed the daily life and the relation with these elements around them. So this artwork is questioning like this colonial background. And what happens is how much the idea of naturalism and the evolution of the naturalism methodologies and thinking, and the relation of researching nature through naturalism, it was what became in Brazil the modern science. So the history of science, like in this country, is completely related to the overlapping of the scientific and European views of nature against the native ones. So you have many books published by naturalists that they was like researching how indigenous people did medicines from these traditional methodologies, and using the same plants to bring them to Europe, and then use to make pills and to start doing like the medicines that was like original from the pharmacy industry. So this is like a really complex subject that interests a lot in my research. Also, like this relation between the discourse and the narratives of the methodologies with plants, and how many of them was stolen from natives one, and then they become prohibitive, because also in Brazil you have many prohibitions and regarding doing this medicinal plants by yourself. So it's really complex. So like here, like the idea of like the division and the separation and the isolation is also like bringing this idea of like this duality of nature that started to be implanted during this time through this source of representations. So this is like this, like the background is like the heaviest, like more conceptual and historical background of many of the artworks I've been doing. And then like in the end, I want to bring the question like why plants. I've been talking about plants like all the time and showing most of my artworks that are related to plants. And I want to share briefly this concept that is the concept that I've been creating in my doctoral thesis that I will finish next year. That is related to the idea of plants and language and mythology. So the concept of, we are familiar with the concept of more than humans. And I've been implementing the idea of like more than plants in my artwork as the concept that is crossing the idea of like species definitions. So in more than plants, plants are involved and humans are involved. And I've been talking about this not questioning the idea of species, for example, and the importance of the species for science itself. That is like completely important, like how science create this discourse and develop many questions based on the idea of species. But my question in my thesis is why with like modern society developed in the way that the scientific neutral concepts, they started to be universal. So I'm questioning how it started to enter on the cultural background. So for example, the concept of life itself, like it started to be universal idea of what is life, or the concept of species. It started to be a universal way of relating to other beings, like, okay, like I am same of a human being and not same of plant, period. So we learned this and we produce this, and how it's not the same in other cultures that still are not in this umbrella of the modern societies. So I'm bringing this sort of questions on how to relate with this concept in I forgot the word. Anyway, but how to relate with this concept in the way they don't become like universal, obligated kind of perceptions. So this work on visual latency, it's a work that it's from 2021, and I use also this methodology. So as I said, this talk is more concentrated on this methodology with these plants. So I also use this methodology of abstracting the color. But in this artwork, I don't use the substance. So these are three plant species that grows around the Sumida area. This exhibition was during Sumida Expo. So I did the research about the plants that grow in the streets around there. There was medicinal ones that have medicinal properties. And then I extracted the color. And the color was transformed into a sound. So, and it was recorded in the transparent vinyl. So I will not, sorry, I will not let you much time to read this text, but I can come back to this later. So this is like how the sound is reproduced in the installation. So you have these two rooms. One room is like with the plants, and the other room, like right here, is where you have the sound being played on the vinyl. So this is a collaboration with Tatsuro Murakami. He's a musician. And then like we use this sound theory that we like first like part of the theory was inspired by Pat Martin. No, Pat. Sorry, I just need to check because I always mistake. Okay, yeah, it's Pat Martino. There is a no end of this. So like what Patty Martino suggested is like a relation between the C major scale in music and letters in the alphabet. But what happens in the Patty Martino scale is like it doesn't finish. So you don't have like the full repetition and the full circle, because in the 7 major scales, if you repeat this 3 times, you can fulfill like the 26 letters of the alphabet, but you have like 2 empty spots. So we took this theory and we developed our own theory based on this, that we use another scale. We don't use the C major scale, we use the chromatic scale. So in the chromatic scale, like you have like all the notes that exist in this scale that are 12. So we use like all the alphabet and also numbers from 0 to 9, and we can cover like this. So you can have like a perfect circle of relations of coding notes into letters and numbers. So with this coding, we transform like letters and numbers into a sequence of notes. So in a music scale. And then it's how we transform the color of the plants into sounds. So this is like the graphic representations, like kind of graphic scores. So this is like the color codes and other associated codes related to minerals, elements related to each plant it was transformed like into this scales and the sounds. So that is what you have in the installation. Like there is like 4 speakers. So in 3 of the speakers, we have the 3 voices of the 3 plants being played. And the 4th one, there is the word coexist. There is this word here. Here we have the representation of the coexist in the scale. So the sound produce the colors of the plants. So I started to work with sound because also it is important element of like a ritualistic way of understanding and communicating, and also because it's represents this invisible layer of the connections of something that you cannot understand only rationally, but it can enter from this sensitive experience with things. So I'm talking about this communications with plants, in this many way of communicating with plants that are not only categorizing them and studying them, but relating in a more invisible spiritual layer as well. So this is also there's other narratives in this artwork overlapping.
Can we share some sound examples?
Yeah, I just need a little time to
okay.
open it here.
So don't you have any link or something like that?
Yeah, like it's not open link, so I will play to you. I will put it here so we can play.
If possible, please.
Sorry for taking some time here. So I will try to share the sound here, and you let me know if you can hear this or not. I'm not sure if I have to share my screen to share the sound as well, but I guess I need.
I think also if you I will set you as the core host, and probably you can.
Can you hear something? No.
No.
No. Okay. So then I share. I think the sound is not good, right?
I think that on the Zoom application, so
You're not
see some
hearing?
control panel and of the Zoom, and please.
Sorry.
There is some indication on the controller of the Zoom.
Okay.
So can you see the side toolbars of the Zoom? And if you click the sharing sound or something like that. And
yes, maybe if you see the share the screen,
okay.
tap the share the screen, and then maybe in the left bottom side, there are the share the sound. So you have to check this sound button, and then you choose the screen you want to share, and then you can.
Okay, I'm not.
Yeah.
Maybe I just need to disconnect my earphones. Maybe it works this way.
It's not problem.
Sorry, I just don't know how to.
Okay. Okay. So, sorry. If you have a chance, please make a link on the share. Later.
I tried again, and you let me know if you can hear or not.
Oh yeah, I got it.
Oh, it's good.
But it's gone. Is it silent now? The ones we listen to.
You cannot hear anymore?
No.
Oh, really? So I don't know what.
we could hear just 1 second.
Okay, so that's too bad. So,
okay, anyway, thank you. It's good.
I'm sorry, I don't know how to share the sounds. It's so. So yeah, it's really like minimal, and like the notes go one by one, reading intervals, like, so it's really minimal and sort of silent sound with the notes. So we try to not to do like a composition out of this, but let like the notes like.
So the way that we got them as much as possible. But I'll see like how I can share this sound with you later, because this is like a non-open account. So if I share the link, you will not have access anyway. So to just go back. But,
sorry, I'm not demanding, so.
yeah. No, it would be great to share. Just like I don't have it prepared to be shared like right now. Yeah, but anyway, this was Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. This was like basically like the last artwork that I fully prepared to talk today. I can briefly show other artworks, just images, and if you have any questions and interest like about these other artworks, we can discuss. But they bring other questions, other materialities as well. Some of them are more related to bioarts, and like some of them are a little less related to. So we can make some discussions, and maybe if these artworks can bring some insights also to the discussions, we can talk a little more about them. But as you can see, there's kind of obsession in my artwork with plants. So I work with them in many ways. So this is like for me what means in my work, the idea of modern plants, because when I'm talking about plants, I'm not talking only about plants, but like they are some kind of window and wisdom to connect with other perceptions, with other beings, and like the plants itself, how they relate to other species is completely symbiotic, it's completely interdependent. So there's no exactly, I believe, like for the plants itself, like they cannot identify where their bodies start and where they end, because of course if you take out the plant from soil, you can see, okay, here's the roots of the plant, but then when you take out of the soil, the plants are not making their connections anymore. So to make a connection, the roots of the plant need to be inside of the soil, and I believe they don't understand where is the final point of themselves and where start the soil and the minerals that enter, and where start the air and viruses and micro bacteria that like they do symbiosis. So for me, like thinking on the plants and modern plants is like it's thinking about beyond also their bodies and about humans as well. So yeah, this is the complexity of my artwork. And oh sorry, this is not a good resolution. This I wanted to share like today from this point of view that is more like how I think these relations and how I make this connection. So it's like more entering in my complex mind kind of thing, and more my creative process. What I wanted to bring today, to not be repetitive, like considering what I brought in the other talk. So yeah, that's this. I believe I maybe is not clarifying talk, more complexifying talk.
No. Thank you so much, and it's a great talk. Thank you again. And so about the last part and for what is the border of the plant, they reminded me of the discussion that what is the border of brain. And actually, if you extract just take the brain from the head, and then of course we can culture the brain in a media, but what it does mean is questionable, and is it really the intact brain, or what does intact brain mean, something like that. Yeah, and yeah, so very inspiring, and so now the talk is open to the discussion and question. なんか若い方はできるだけトップに質問を1個はしてみるっていうのをお勧めしますが。
すいません。
はい
途中、今質問タイムでやってますか？
合ってます。
なんか途中でおっしゃっていた、 なんか、アウターフォレストっていう意味がよくわからなくて、多分その途中の話もちょっとあんまりついていけなかったんで、ちょっと、それもあれなん、ちょっと変な質問になってしまうかもしれないんですけど、途中で言ってたアウターフォレストっていうのはどういう意味ですか？
What does outer forest
Okay.
mean?
Yeah, like in outer forest, like the meaning, so the origin of the word forest, like etymologically, like it means in the medieval period, it was like exactly place where they had the spawns, so where the plants and the forest itself was, but it was a space restricted to royal people. So like just royal family could access this. It was like kind of garden, like cultivated, and just like the people that was not from royal family, they could not have access on this in medieval Europe. So I'm bringing this as like a opposition on how like native people in Brazil related to the forest. It was not something that you make as a garden, isolated, but you live inside of it.
あ、わかります。ありがとうございます。
大丈夫ですか？
なんか、人が手入れしてない森みたいな感じですか？
Yeah, like not don't put like don't touch, but maybe opposite of not touching, they make like kind of garden. It's not like the forest growing uncontrollable as the forest want. It's like you plant and you cultivated the plant like in a beautiful way, and just like royal family, like just imperial family can enter there. So poor people like from feudal period, like they cannot enter. It's just like kind of private forest.
ありがとうございます。
人工的になんか森的なものを作るっていうことですね。はい。ありがとうございます。So we have a couple of questions
Okay, yeah.
from the chat. 遠藤さん。
Okay. Thank you for your great presentation. And then I just a question about the Zao on like Zao Togata Onsen.
Yeah.
And then question is what kind of stone? Yeah, there are a lot of some stones. And then so what kind of stone plant mineral meanings of life, or no, not all, or resonance on the water from viewpoint of color or some substance you wanna intend something?
Yeah. So like you mean you want to ask what kind of stones I'm using, or
Yes.
if okay. So yeah, maybe I talked like too fast about this. Like these stones, they was in the river. So I will share it again to show the map. So in this region, you have in this region, like here is Togata, you have some rivers that come from the volcano area and go down here. So there's the river like Nigori and Matsu River. They go like they come from up the mountain, from up volcano and go down and cross Togata. So I took these rocks from this river, and this stones was igneous and metamorphic ones. And then when I put it then like on the onsen water, it transformed like in this orange because of the minerals of the water. I don't know the English name of this kind of mineral.
Yeah.
But maybe you know which is like Fe.
Ferric compounds.
Yeah.
Iron.
Yeah.
Related compounds. Yeah.
Yeah. there's like many other like compounds of this water onsen as calcium, but this is the ones that like transform it like visually, like that you can see. Also, like in the plant, you can see like other kind of reactions, so they become greens. So what happens is like depending on the material, you have different kind of mineral reaction of the onsen waters interacting with the elements. So like the meaning behind of this, it's also related to the narratives, like the popular narratives, because what happens is like this onsen of Togata is, I don't know how is the Japanese expression from the onsen that comes from the, like under the soil, don't come directly from Zao. It is like magmatic lake. So this water comes from there and not comes from directly from Zao. So the Zao like population was always saying, no, this water is not from Zao. This water is not related to Zao volcano. And then there is some researchers that was saying that how much this crater, there is some alterations in this crater that shows that this underwater is connected with the crater water. So like I'm overlapping this like being or not being related, these elements being or not being related, and how much sometimes we have like this perception, okay, like there's no relation between this water and volcano, but like how there's no relation, like everything is like close and there is like a ecology of relations like constantly. So for me, like showing this kind of transformation in the elements that are close to each other, so the minerals going back to minerals and mineral transforming mineral as well as mineral transforming plant, is talking about this continuous transformation of things that are like there, are visible, we can see and touch them. But when we have some informations, more technical informations, the technical information just overlap our mind and we say, no, it's not this, like it is not related to this, you know? So I'm like making some kind of questions about what we can feel and see and what we can know and rationally understand as true.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, I can understand and area, and maybe it's a problem from the era, maybe era like yes, we have to know, we have to investigate from that viewpoint of era, maybe.
何イラって。ごめん。
いや、すいません、時代すごい時代性
エラー。
がある。
error
があるものなので、まずその観点見るとすごい紐解けそうだなって思いました。すいません。はい。
はい。
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Tsukamoto-san.
Oh, thank you for your presentation. I measure anthropology of the art. I'm very inspired by your presentation. I have a question about colonialism and plants. I'm very agree with your problematic view of colonialism. By the way, I think there is always a problem of power in colonialism. When you use plants in your work, is there an issue of power there? Like the one who work and まあその植物が使われる側になるっていうことというところがあると思うんですけども、そういうところに対して、まあ like the one who works and the one who is worked on.
Yeah, it's really interesting questions, and also it's there's many ways of connecting with these questions. Many possibilities where to go to reply you, so I'm like trying to choose and maybe cross all of them. But first of all, thinking about, for example, this popular perspective in Brazil, like the relation with plants and power. It's also like an expression, plants of power. We use this expression to talk about medicinal plants. So the plants that can transform our bodies and our perceptions, we call plants of power. So in rituals, we use them in this way. So like when I bring them to artwork, there's like another layer. It's not the same thing, of course, because I'm not in this cultural and like this specific context. So like it's another thing that I'm bringing. So what I want to and what inspires me is this kind of relation, of course. It's how I relate to them in my daily life. It's how I relate to them since I was a kid. So it's because I relate to them in this way that I need to bring this to my artwork, because I can just think about it like it's, as I say, like again, it's like kind of obsession, like relation for me always. Like if I'm interested on this, so it enters on my inspiration to create. But of course, in arts we have other powers relations and aesthetics and like how much it's westernized. Europe, like from European perspective, and the history of art and all of, and as I said, like the history of life, the history of art is also related to the colonialism in Brazil. So this is like something that we've been questioned a lot in history of art in Brazil. So that like post-colonialism in arts and how to create these other relations. So when I bring them to artwork, the first artworks that I started to do with plants, I've brought them to like this white cube. And for me, what was making me to bring them was they was here before. So this like was what tricking me. Like before the architecture, before the modern society, the plants was here. And then we developed a system that like suddenly it's weird the plants to be there. Like they doesn't belong to that space anymore. So for me, like bringing them together, bringing them again, and making like this kind of uncomfortable, like complex relations, I don't think is like horizontal and perfect relation. I think it's more like a struggling and like bringing this paradox. It's like why the plants is not more like from this space, why that's weird, why there is a power relation to bring them back if there is a power relation that took them out of here first. So this is like how I think, and what I believe, it's once plants are there, I believe on the power of the plants itself. So I think they do their work. So for me, I think I'm like opening this space for them to manifest, and they do their work on like entering the bodies and communicate with others and like change like the substance in the body, like and change the perception by smell and by oil on the air. So they are doing their work and they are growing. So, and also some artworks I did like growing seeds, and in the end of the artwork I distributed these plants for people to keep growing the plants later, for example. So for me it's like how I think. Again, I don't think it's like I don't have this imaginary, oh, I have a perfect relation with plants and like the garden. Like no, it's complex, it's politically complex, but I want to bring this complexity of relations of power and putting plants as also a powerful ones, but also as a vulnerable ones, of course. I don't know if I reply.
Thank you. Thank you for your answer. すみません。I speak Japanese. すごくよくわかりました。どういうレイヤーの問題だったっていうことですとか、どういうふうに作品を作るにあたって考えてらっしゃる、植物を使った作品を作るときにどういったことを考えてらっしゃるのかっていう点などがすごくよく理解できました。本当にありがとうございます。
ありがとうございます。So we have a question of George.
Yeah, so thank you very much for your talk. It was really great to hear your whole, your whole thing, your whole not your whole, but a lot of your experience. So very nice to hear. So I'm just curious, I would like you to comment on your thoughts on the domestication and human modification of plants, especially GMOs, new breeding techniques. So how would this affect your view on plants and on living matter, actually?
Yeah. Like when you say like domestication and modification, it brings me two layers. Maybe it will be like, as you say, historical, like what comes first. So it brings me the idea of like I forgot the word in English, but the monoculture. So it's
not only that. So domestication, I would say most plants are not natural, right? So tomato or anything, they've been modified for thousands of years.
Yeah.
Monoculture is the last step, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. And also it's something that is related to the monoculture. So like as you said, like it brings me first to this. Like, so for example, also like when it comes to like, again, to my reference, that's like colonialism and how it's like in Brazil, for example, and many other countries, like they started the plantation systems. So these plantation systems, I think, was the first outcoming of like kind of like modifying the relations with plants, because what happens, like it's do you know like agroforest, I guess? Agroforestry? No? Should I explain?
Agroforestry, using the forest for wood and things like this, or
no, agroforestry is like a system that are being developed as a kind of you grow food inside the forest. So you grow a forest of food. So this is the system that indigenous people use.
Permaculture, maybe a little bit.
Yeah, like slightly related. Yeah. So like it was the system that like indigenous people developed to build Amazon. So like this is like interesting thing. Like Amazon is not like natural; it was built for indigenous people. So in the management of seeds and like spread of seeds and the management of soil and like changing of the soil, like something that we call like terra preta, there's like black clay, so black soil. So it's like a really rich soil, and like under many parts of like Amazon, they build this kind of like, they develop this kind of soil to grow lots of plants. So from this, we have the idea of like agroforestry. Okay. And then like when you, what is the base of the idea of agroforestry is like the plants depend on themselves and the other animals and on the relations of ecological relations to grow in a certain way. So when you like isolated the plants in a way to grow, you start to modify the plants and the relations that the plants establish with themselves. Okay, I know you're not interested about this exactly. I know you are interested about the modification in laboratory, but for me, no, not this.
No, so my question about the domestication was actually that happened before, right? So when humans maybe thousands of years ago started to selectively breed and select plants.
Yeah.
Right? So without humans, many of plants would not exist.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So humans have a longer connection with plants. Also, maybe now there would be plants, but they would be completely different, right? So there's already a long connection and conversation with human and plants. So this is just a comment. Yeah. So.
Okay, it's not a question. I'm trying to understand your question. Sorry. So your thoughts on domestication and human modification plants. Both. So exactly, like I think this is like this relation that like it was built like in agroforestry, for example, and in Amazon. It's like there's no the idea of like plants being and nature being like self-existent without humans, and they are perfect without humans. It's exactly the opposite. So the Amazon is an example of this. Like we have the idea of like Amazon as being like the less natural spot of life and existence and the biodiversity in the world, but in fact it was built. It is a society. It is a proposition of society and existence that builds diversity through relations of humans and other animals and nature. And I think it's like it's amazing. But I think it's like it depends on your intentions. So exactly like you have this this monocultural system that is also like people that want to like establish some source of relation with the reproduction of nature and like in a completely different way, and they have completely different results. So I think it's like it's completely interwoven existence, and the growing of both exist together. But I think I don't have like just one thought, because it depends on your intentions and how you do this. It can be problematic or it can be fascinating. It's like how I think.
So to play devil's advocate, so GMOs and new breeding techniques are a natural evolution of this conversation between human and plants?
Sorry, can you say again? My phone was interrupted.
So to play devil's advocate, so GMOs and selective breeding, new breeding techniques, they are just the next step of this conversation between human and plants? Or is it something completely different?
I can't.
Sorry, it was a bit provocative, so you don't have to take it too seriously.
Yeah, I don't know what is like the GMO and new breeding technologies. So you can explain better for me, so I can.
It's the way to create new plants with certain traits which have not been before, so then make them able to grow in different fruits, different properties of fruits, different places where they can grow, or whatever can be engineered, right? So
okay.
There's no limit.
Okay, yeah, like I think one of the things that I can comment that I don't know if it's exactly what you're saying is like there's some friends of mine in Brazil. They was like working with creating like a specific environment, so you can control like an environment completely with technology. Like for example, you can create a Amazon ecosystem in Japan and a bubble kind of thing that you can control all of the levels of humidity and all of the climatic elements to make this transference of ecosystems. This is something that particularly I don't find that interesting. Like it can be like interesting from the point of view of technology and uses of technology, but something that interested more like for me is like as something that is also I'm researching in my thesis and proposing is that idea of animism is site specific. So crossing artistic perspective, like concepts with anthropological ones. Because I think, for example, interests me a lot the first image that I showed from where my family is. So this idea of like the arid place. So the idea of a place that are not Amazons kind of things, because this is also fulfill of other living beings that maybe is not the best place to humans to exist, but it's best place for many other beings to exist, and Amazon will not be good to them to exist. So I think like this kind of diversity of environments and how they transform themselves like through these ecological relations interests me more, and how people can relate to their mythologies and ecologies and like relations, like interrelations with what it's there, interests me more than like creating a new environment like controlled by many other tools to make this environment. So it's like how I think this, for example, this futuristic relations for me is like we will just restore like this many knowledge about ways of living in deserts, for example, like you have in Chile, like people live in deserts, and many indigenous cultures that live there in really dry areas, for example in Atacama. And it's really interesting how they feed themselves and how they spread the seeds and everything in a completely non-perfect environment. So I think it could be much more futuristic, like just to restore like this kind of knowledge and learn how to bring this to new ways of relating to the lands the way they are and in the relations they offer to the diversity of what kind of existent beings are there and that like to be there.
Yeah, no, I'm
and
just
choose
curious.
to be there and not in Amazon. Like
Yes, so I'm just curious if mythologies always have to be historic, or if we are making now new mythologies for the
yeah,
future.
I think we are.
So
Yeah,
especially,
we're
for
doing
example,
now.
Hideo's work, so on the memorial for artificial life, so I think
Yeah.
this is a very strong comment.
No, I
So
think
methodologies are not only historic, they're also happening right now, and we should be aware.
Yeah,
and I
no,
think you are. I think you are. Yeah. Okay. Good.
No, exactly. I think I'm creating new mythologies in my work, and it's what I'm suggesting is like not like go to the past and like live in this bubble because it doesn't exist. It's just like what kind of reference we are choosing to be our historical background, because like history is not one. We have many histories background, and like we have the ones that was erased, and then we have the ones that are in the books, and we have the ones that are in the statues and in the institutions. So it's like which kind of background, because we don't create a mythology, new mythology from out of nowhere. We always have historical backgrounds. So for me, it's more like I believe, and I'm proposing a lot to create new narratives and new mythologies right now with the relations we can build right now. So for me, like More Than Plants is my new mythology. Some like related to what kind of relation I want to build with plants right now. But I think like it's related to some choice that I'm doing, like which will be my background, which will be my historical background to create my new mythologies, what will survive, what will be restored. Because I think mythology is a way of conserving narratives, to bringing to new generations, to maintaining the future. So some things will just die and be forgotten and other will continue. So for me, like this is the choice, like which one I want to come to spread through my new ones, and which one I do not, kind of thing.
Okay, thank you for a very exciting and a very interesting discussion. And yeah, and it's great. And yeah, actually, interestingly, so in response to rapid change brought by the genetic modification in recent years, and we tend to, how can I say, compare, or we tend to think that the conventional domestication is more, how can I say, ensured, and that there is no problematic compared with the recent, how can I say, the rapid change. But the Anais point, the very similar process had been already done in the, even in the domesticate, the conventional one, and not only just the human, just the agricultural relationship, but also that it's also an issue of colonialism or the power involved process, the biopolitical process, which is also just the case for the recent issue on how to discuss about the GMO, because it's also the very the biopolitical issues as well. So it's really exciting, and the discussion, and I really learned a lot from both of you talking about the issue. Yeah, thank you very much. So in Japanese, because it's a little bit complicated discussion, which I myself do not perfectly follow up. But so in Japanese, 多分分かった方も多いと思うんですけど、ちょっと多分できなかった方も多いんじゃないかと思うんですけども、もともとのディスカッションは、クエスチョンは、その遺伝子組み換えみたいな、その非常に急激な、遺伝子組み換えによるその植物のモディフィケーションに関しては、言及してなかったので、それについてどういうふうに思いますかっていうことに関して、アナイスさんの、応答は、それに直接答えるものではなくて、その、もう少し昔にある、その、ドメスティケーション、なんていうのかな、 農業とかの開発とか、どういうふうにそのアマゾンがかつてその人間によって改変されてきたのかっていうことを、の中で、それに、関するような、答えをしていったんですね。で、それに対してギャオクは、いや、そこじゃなくて遺伝子組み換えがっていうふうなことで、最初の方は、ちょっと、すれ違いのように聞こえるようなことがあったんだけれども、ただ実際のところ、そのアナイさんの、視点からすると、結局のところ人間が介入して、そこで何かいろんなことを環境を改変していくということは、単にその農業開発とかよくモノカルチャーとか言われるだけじゃなくて、そこにはその、南米で言えば植民地支配みたいな、権力が関わるような政治的なイベントというかいうのが常にあって、そんで、そういった問題というのが、必ずそのドメスティケーションには、あるんだっていうことを語っていて、で、その両者を比較してみたときに、なんでその、ジョージさん側から言うと、本従来の、ドメスティケーションに比べて、現在のすごい急激な変化というのが問題かっていうと、そこにはその、今までとは違ったスピードで、なんかいろんなことに介入してくるようなことというのが、これもパワーポリティックスと関係して起きてきているっていうのが、やっぱりすごい問題になっている。だけど、アナイさんの視点っていうのはすごいもっとなんか、長期的な歴史スパンの話をしているので、その長期的なスパンで考えると、そこも実はすごく見方によっては、例えばその植物の進化みたいなことから考えると、もう十分実は急激な進歩であって、そこにはやはりいろんな潜在的な問題があって、特にやっぱり植民地支配的な話っていうのって日本ではあんまり実感がないので、あんまり語られないと思うんですけども、彼女はすごいそういうオリジンを持っているので、実感を持ってそれを、実存的にそれを語っているっていうのがすごい迫力がやっぱりあって、で、そこにはやっぱり、全然一見時代も違うようでいても、同じような問題がそこには潜んでいるんだっていうことを、すごく強く語ってくれたような気がして、すごく僕は勉強になったし、面白いディスカッションだなと思って、ありがとうございますということです。はい。Thank you very much.
Just a briefly comment, like after this question of yours, like I was thinking of like how much interesting like would be to think like for example this indigenous communities in Brazil, which kind of way they would use like GMO technologies, for example, if this is something that made me curious and interested, like because as I said, like it's not what you do, but like which intention and like which is the results that you're looking for. And the way of they manage it, like the forest and modify it, was thinking on like this kinship and how they want their sisters to grow, and the sisters was trees, like in fact. So they wanted to grow their family. And then like they modify it like and manipulated the forest in an interesting way. So I've been thinking like how like this GMO could be used like in this interesting intentions, because of course we have this big problems in modern society also on how the GMO can be used in a really complex way. So as I said, it's not about the methodology, but the intention behind, and like for futuristic ones, like what moves you and how you approach to this.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think that point is very, very related with Dana Haraway's point, the kinship point, which is related with also that she is mentioning about the application of genetic technology for enhancing some the kinship.
That's right.
Yeah, with other species. Okay, so any one or two questions or additionally or comments? If not, it's a good time to close. Almost. So, George?
That's not a question, just an announcement. So I saw one of your collaborators was also Eduardo, right? And we are also very much involved in organizing the Bio Summit So I would like to invite everyone here to still apply for a talk and for a presentation at BioSummit 2023. Deadline is 1st of December. Applications are still open. Please do this. And we're also thinking about making a small BioSummit Japan meeting during the time of the BioSummit. This will be January 27 to 29. And let's hope we can get many submissions from Japan and we can go to Atami or somewhere to have a meeting, a scientific meeting there. So please apply. Yeah?
Okay.
Mina-san applyしてください.
Please circulate the information.
Amazing.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much again. And also another, I would like to announce that the next meeting, but before that, please upload. Nice. Thank you very much for very interesting talk, and also for everyone joining the discussion. Thank you very much. And so the next metaPhorest seminar will be on the next week, actually, and by Tsukamoto-san and present here. I'm circulating the Facebook event page. Oops. Where is it? Here's this one.
I just sent it.
Yeah. Sorry. The same one, of course. And so, and Tsukamoto-san will introduce some his art anthropological view on bio art or something like that. And please enjoy. And on the next week's at the metaPhorest seminar about Tsukamoto-san. And it's likely that the new one came just now, but it's not closing, sorry. And okay, so thank you again for joining now, and see you in the next week for Tsukamoto-san's. And so have a nice weekend.
Okay.
And bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. ありがとうございました。
ありがとうございました。すごい面白かったです。
Thank you.
Thank you, George.
Bye.